What if the sun simply forgot to rise? Imagine waking to frost in June, red skies that bled like open wounds, and a world so cold it felt cursed. No war, no plague, just silence, hunger, and a sky that wouldn't explain itself. No one knew why. But the answer wasn't in the heavens. It was buried deep beneath them, waiting, burning, in the heart of a mountain that would change the rhythm of the world forever. It started as a whisper, a strange chill that clung to the mornings, a faint copper glow that followed the sun wherever it went. Then came 1816, the year the sun forgot to rise. Across Europe and North America, dawn showed up dim and cold, as if someone had drawn a curtain over the heavens. Days that should have been bright turned the color of bruises. The air itself felt wrong, heavy, haunted. In New England, farmers woke to frost in June. Ice crept across their fields and killed corn before it even had a chance. Birds dropped mid-flight, confused by the endless twilight. In France, the sky bled red and orange, sunsets burning like fever dreams. In China, the monsoon never came. Rivers dried up while snow fell on summer soil. It was a year of contradictions: summer snows, crimson dawns, and hungry nights. Church bells tolled for crops that never ripened. Families huddled by dying fires, wondering if God had turned away. Some blamed sunspots, others thought it was divine punishment. No one knew the truth, that the answer lay half a world away, where a mountain had torn itself apart. Mount Tambora, April 1815. Its explosion was so violent it swallowed the sound of itself. The blast sent billions of tons of ash and sulfur into the sky, high enough to lace into the stratosphere. There, it wrapped the planet in a shroud of dust, scattering sunlight and dimming the Earth's lamp. The ash painted sunsets red and left the days grey, as if the planet had forgotten how to breathe light. In Europe, that strange twilight crept into art, into dreams. Painters tried to catch skies that looked like bruised fire. Writers trapped indoors by cold rain turned to imagination. One stormy night by Lake Geneva, a young woman named Mary Shelley sat by a window, lightning flashing outside, and began to write about a scientist who tried to play God. Frankenstein was born from that lightless summer, a story of creation in a world that seemed abandoned by its own creator. The year without a summer changed everything. Crops failed, famine spread, the price of grain doubled, people moved, starved, adapted. But it also forced humanity to look up and realize how fragile everything was, how the sky itself could turn against us. When the light finally came back in 1817, the damage had already written itself into memory, and the Earth, as always, remembered. What erupts in one corner can darken another. They didn't have satellites or climate models back then, but the people of 1816 learned what we still struggle to understand: that the Earth keeps every secret, every scar, every flame we send into its sky. No one could have known that the dim skies and dying fields were the echo of one mountain's fury. A single eruption so vast it stitched the planet into shadow. The eruption released energy equal to 100,000 Hiroshima bombs, collapsing the mountain into a vast crater and sending a plume 40 kilometers high into the stratosphere. Ash buried villages, rivers boiled, and tens of thousands died instantly, or from starvation as crops and water turned toxic. Yet the greater catastrophe drifted unseen. Fine ash and sulfur spread through the atmosphere, dimming sunlight and cooling the planet by nearly 3 degrees. Seasons failed. In Asia, monsoons vanished, and famine bred cholera. In Europe and America, summer froze, crops died, and the world descended into hunger and grief. The world didn't just grow colder, it grew stranger. The skies hung heavy and grey as if the sun had been locked behind glass. Days bled into nights without warning, and Europe felt like it had slipped into a dream it couldn't wake from. Storms rolled across the mountains, lightning crawling over the clouds like restless thoughts. It was the summer that never came, and somewhere on the misty edges of Lake Geneva, a group of young writers tried to make sense of it. They gathered at a grand house called Villa Diodati, perched above the dark water. Lord Byron was there, brilliant, arrogant, and haunted by his own excess. Percy Shelley came too, with his quiet rebellion and wild idealism. Mary Godwin, just 18, was with him, along with her stepsister Claire and Byron's physician, John Polidori. They'd come chasing the romance of summer, days of poetry, swimming, and sunlight. Instead, they found only storms. The thunder never stopped. The mountains disappeared behind walls of fog. The lake glowed dark and still, like something waiting to swallow its secrets. With nowhere to go, they turned inward, reading ghost stories aloud by candlelight, their laughter echoing against the storm outside. The world felt unsteady, as if creation itself had slipped its balance. And then, one night, as lightning flashed across the water, Byron suggested a game. Each of them would write a ghost story. It was meant to pass the time, but it changed everything. In that dim villa, with thunder as their soundtrack, two new myths were born. Polidori, brooding in the corner, shaped a story about a cold, elegant man who drained the life out of others. The first true vampire, inspired by Byron himself. But it was Mary who caught something deeper in the dark. She'd been dreaming of life and death, of creation and consequence, of man's hunger to control what he doesn't understand. The world outside was dying, the air thick with the fallout of a distant volcano, and inside she imagined a young scientist daring to play God. One sleepless night, she saw it clearly, a man kneeling beside his creation, a body made of pieces brought to life by lightning, a flicker of light in a dead world. That vision became Frankenstein. The irony was poetic, that out of the coldest, deadest summer came a story about creating life. The sky itself had become a metaphor, electric, violent, unpredictable. The same energy that killed crops and blinded the sun now sparked a new kind of story. One where horror wasn't just found in monsters, but in the human desire to be more than human. By the time the storms faded, literature had changed forever. The old Gothic tales of castles and ghosts had evolved into something raw and psychological, fear turned inward. The darkness outside had become a mirror for the darkness within. From Tambora's ash came an entirely new imagination, one that saw beauty in terror, truth in isolation, and meaning in madness. Out of a world stripped of sunlight, they built a new one, made of words, lightning, and the lingering hum of a storm that never really ended. When the sun finally returned, it wasn't salvation, just a dim echo of what once was. Light felt thinner, gentler, as if the world was wary of it now. The rivers had shifted, the fields lay dead, and people wandered through what was left, dazed by survival. Yet from that quiet ruin, something began to move. The world, broken as it was, had started to think. With old rhythms gone, necessity became invention. Across Europe, people abandoned starved lands and migrated toward any place still breathing. America, Canada, anywhere the sun still burned through. Hunger became motion. In Switzerland, trapped by storms, invention replaced despair. Karl Dreiss, unable to feed his horses, built a wooden frame on two wheels that he could push with his feet, the first bicycle. What began as survival became innovation. Artists, too, turned ruin into beauty. Turner painted the red skies born from ash. Byron and Shelley wrote poetry out of chaos, giving language to collapse. Even science stirred awake. People began to ask, could weather be studied? Could Earth itself fall ill? Out of confusion came the first seeds of climate science. Faith shifted too. The darkness wasn't punishment. It was a mirror, showing how fragile and creative humanity could be. Tambora had destroyed, but it had also forced imagination to bloom. From a year without summer rose a century of invention. The world had stared into extinction and seen creation instead. When the skies finally cleared, humanity was quieter, wiser, and more aware of its place beneath the heavens, having learned at last to listen when the earth speaks. And so the world learned. Sometimes creation begins in collapse. Out of ash came stories, inventions, and the quiet courage to start again. The sky turned grey, but imagination caught fire. Because maybe that's what we do best when the light fades. We make our own. If the sun forgot to rise tomorrow, what would you create in the dark?